Hi everyone, we're about to start Module 8. This week and next week we'll conclude our term, so we're closing in on the finish line pretty quickly. Last week we covered a couple of chapters that I think everyone found pretty interesting. We looked at the experience of Jewish Americans, which to some extent mirrors the experience of some Asian Americans in that Jewish Americans have experienced significant levels of success in some areas as compared to other groups. We also looked at Chinese Americans and Japanese Americans in more detail than we had the week before. One of the most interesting and I think disturbing aspects of the Japanese experience was their internment during World War II. And we had a lively discussion in the course discussion board regarding this. By the way, I did post an article at the end of the week on the discussion board written by an actor who played Mr. Lieutenant Sulu in the original Star Trek series. He was interned in the internment camps as a child during World War II, and in this article from the New York Times, he describes some of his experiences with regard to that. So if you have the time and interest, if you go onto the discussion board for the last week, you will see I posted a link for this. This week, we turn our attention to the largest minority group in the country, and that is women. If you recall from earlier in the course, what defines a minority group is not just their statistical size in terms of numbers, but rather the extent to which they experience inequality and powerlessness. And women, being slightly more than half of the population of this country, have traditionally experienced significant levels of inequality, and that is still the case in some areas. So we'll have an opportunity to explore that in some detail and to look at some myths regarding that. There are some myths that are still kicking around regarding women and their roles, but things have changed pretty rapidly over the past, since the Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s and 1960s. Although the Civil Rights Movement is traditionally associated with the advancement of rights for racial minorities, it has also had an impact on the rights for women. We'll also look at the experience of some other countries beyond our boundaries and be able to draw some comparisons in terms of human rights with regard to what we are doing and have done here as opposed to what's been happening overseas. And in some cases we're doing pretty well, in other cases not as well as we should be doing. So we'll get a chance to get some perspective. I think sometimes we get too caught up in just looking at our own experience and current status and not looking at what is taking place around the world. There's some things that other countries can learn from us, but there are also some things we can learn from some other countries in terms of how they do things. This week, I'm also providing you with an extra credit assignment for any of you who are interested in earning some extra points. There's an essay assignment that I am posting for you that you can do, and it's not required. As I said, it's optional. But if you're interested in doing it, please take advantage of it. If you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to let me know. I know this is a busy time for everyone, but if you do have the time and interest, I would welcome your doing this essay. It's, I think you'll find the topic interesting and will shed some light on the United States as compared to some other countries with regard to women in leadership positions. Okay, so I'll be talking to you again next week, our final week in the term, but if you have any questions as we are moving toward the conclusion, please let me know. We do have a few assignments with significant points yet to do, so I don't want anyone to do those assignments if they're not clear on exactly what the expectations are. So please don't hesitate to either give me a call or send me an email. I check for email every day of the week, including weekends, and be happy to help you. Okay, have a good week, and I will talk to you next week.